What is going on, all you GBA type people? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys my Week 8 match against Jolt and his Kansas City Jirachiefs. If you guys haven't checked out Jolt yet this season, he's been doing extremely well, and his channel link will be in the description down below. Jolt is someone who I am very good friends with. As a matter of fact, I think he's probably one of the people I talk to most in terms of the GBA and just week to week, things like that. Someone who's extremely good at the game. As a matter of fact, I tell him all the time, but when I ask him for a mock, he always makes me feel like I'm just like a dumbass because the way that he plays and the way that he conducts himself or even looks at building and things like that. So a lot of respect for him. Someone who I think is probably one of the best in terms of his playing ability, and I am genuinely excited to play him. As a matter of fact, last season I didn't want to play him because his team was just really good, but also I think that this season I am doing the best, but I know that my team, at least on paper, I can stack up well against his, whereas other coaches have been having larger issues, and as a result have been, saying, oh, his team is just impossible. Well, we'll see how that goes this week. So, Jolt's team, he has access to Magearna, Mew, Mega Aerodactyl, Scolipede, Manaphy, Goodra, Incineroar, Alola Ninetales, Breloom, Meloetta, and Groudon. His Z accessible mons are going to be Mew and Scolipede. Now, across his entire team is basically set up in some way or another. It's either fat, or it can just set up, or it's just it has a very solid mixture between bulk and very solid offensive presence. So that's one thing that I think that his team, exceeds very well at in comparison to a lot of other teams, which may or may not have very passive, very lackluster offense in some cases, or very one-dimensional offenses, or very stacked top-heavy offenses like mine used to be. Now, if you guys hadn't checked out the transaction video, like I said last week, the late uploads that I posted up already, I ended up trading away Mega Lucario, and I dropped Whimsicott for Aerodactyl. So Aerodactyl, Mega Lucario went out to Lars. Lars ended up dropping Deoxys attack form, and he traded me Ho-Oh, which he picked up, and Conkeldurr. In terms of the actual transaction video, Aaron kind of shat all over my team because it's a bad trade, yada yada yada. Fucking, I don't care because I explained it. My team is very top heavy, a lot of offensive sweepers, things that want to click Swords Dance or set up or whatever, and especially on the physical side. And Mega Lucario, I think I'm glad to get rid of it. I've wanted to try Ho-Oh in terms of an Ubers format for a very long time. And not only that, I think that the way that I play, I think I could use it to a very high degree. And the team kind of supports that. I mean, you had every MV fan, fucking these little chatterbox 12-year-olds that are saying, Ho-Oh sucks, one of the worst Ubers. But the thing is, it's you can't judge Ho-Oh if you're going to draft one fucking Defogger and a Magic Bouncer and think it's going to do well. You don't, that's not how things work. It's not. So, any of those idiots in the fan Discord that are saying Ho-Oh's bad, suck my taint. The team that I'm going to be bringing to kind of combat at least the most amount of threats on Jolt's team, and ironically enough, actually, when I faced Tup, I think that his offensive mons actually created me more of an issue than I think Jolt's whole roster. So, the team that I'm going to be bringing this week is going to consist of Ho-Oh, Tapu Koko, Conkeldurr, Latios, Araquanid, and Scizor. So, I am going to forego bring Gliscor again, but I am going to bring my two current transactions. So, the first mon is going to be an Adamant Choice Banded Ho-Oh with Regenerator. It's going to have it's going to be enough speed to outpace a Jolly Breloom. I didn't fucking bother going Jolly to speed tie with Groudon or with Goodra because they're both base 90 as well. And I figured Adamant, Choice Banded, Sacred Fire, Brave Bird, Earthquake, and Toxic is just going to be able to ramrod through whatever I want. He has to be pretty much max defense on everything that's going to come in and take a hit. The only thing that can really take a solid hit is Curse Goodra or something like max HP, max defense Groudon, but you're giving me the Sun with a Sacred Fire and pure ground type, it's not going to resist it. Besides that, defensive Manaphy, defensive Mew, defensive Aerodactyl, defensive, I can go on and on, but if I make one good prediction in terms of changing up the coverage move, whether it's Brave Bird, Earthquake, or Sacred Fire, I just blow something the fuck back. And that's kind of awesome. That's actually a lot of the reason why I like Ho-Oh so much, just because it's so much more powerful. It just destroys things, and it's so cool. And I just like seeing it on Wi-Fi. So, all right, that's Ho-Oh. It's very straightforward. Toxic's there, but I'm probably never gonna click Toxic, to be honest. Next up, we have Scarf Coco. This is going to be a Naughty by Nature set. It's going to have enough speed to outpace, I believe, a Jolly Scolipede as well as a max speed Aerodactyl. Naughty Nature allows me to be more attack and minus Spadef because in general, I'm not going to let this thing really take special hits, because mostly it's going to be, swapped in by things like Scolipede is going to want to take this on, Goodra is going to want to take this on, which may have Earthquake. Groudon, I'd say, is going to want to take this on. So, in other words, I don't really need the Adamant or the jolly, timid, modest nature, whatever. So, I figured Naughty works here. Max attack, a lot of speed, like I said. Choice Scarf, a little bit special attack for the Dazzling Gleam. The Gleam there is for the Breloom. U-turn is just going to hit really hard. It's going to hit things relatively, super effectively with the plus attack nature. And Wild Charge is there. I can pretty much spam that once the Groudon is dead. And then Scarf Defog actually is probably one of the better things I put on here, because in the case that I keep Ho-Oh alive late game, I can defog away rocks if they're still there. If Scissor, which you'll see also is going to be running defog, wasn't able to get rid of them, or it's they got reset up. So basically, I'm having 2 defoggers this game, which does heavily support Ho-Oh, which again was not something that Envy had. So that's Coco. It's going to be able to pivot a lot, and I think with the relative matchup versus the team, it's going to also threaten things out, which will allow me to maybe get a defog off or pivot away and keep momentum in my favor. Next up, we have a pretty standard Guts Assault Vest. Conkeldurr is going to be more or less my Manaphy switch in case he is a Scald variant. And I really, if he burns me, he's just kind of fucked. So, Adamant Nature, because what's kind of nice is that anything that's below, I believe, base 70, I don't have to run any speed. So things like Scissor, things like Araquanid, things like Conkeldurr, I can just run all bulk and then all attack, basically. Drain Punch, Knockoff, Fire Punch, Mach Punch. Just very, very punchy, very hit things in the face with my fists, or the 2, concrete slabs that it holds. Drain Punch is there just for general coverage. Knockoff is there for things like Magearna or Mew that may want to switch in. Fire Punch is also there for Magearna because if I'm at a certain range and he doesn't have Floor Cannon, he has Dazzling Gleam, I can actually end up getting pretty solid damage off, if not 2 KOing with Fire Punch. Mach Punch is there just to get some good solid damage off before I might get knocked out myself. So that's kind of the idea there. A little bit of HP, but a lot of Spadef, just so I can take on Manaphy, Magearna as well as possible. And that's pretty much it. I'm excited to use Conkeldurr and Ho-Oh now that they're, I'm having access to both. Now, you see the Latios set. It's very interesting. It's going to be able to outpace his base 100, so Mew and Manaphy. Ground DMZ, Jolly, Dragon Dance, Dragon Claws, and Headbutt with Earthquake. Yeah, it's a set. It is... I brought, looking at the matchup, it was better than a special Calm Mind set, because he's just going to have things that are going to outpace it, namely the Aerodactyl, which is going to have Ice Fang, the Scolipede, which is going to be able to speed boost all over me, Magearna, which is going to be able to resist both its dual stabs. So I figured, you know what, let's see if D-Dance Ground Z actually is going to work with Dragon Claws and Headbutt, and in the words of both Aaron and Aster, this is either going to be a Mon that breaks 1 or 2 Mons, or it's going to be my first sack. So we'll see exactly what that ends up being. But I brought this just because I figured in terms of my whole roster, it's probably better than anything else I could have brought. Gliscor was heavily pressured. I actually didn't bring Gliscor because when I looked at the matchup overall, yes, rocks are great. Rocks are fine. But when I was watching Jolt's matches, I saw that based on his team structure, he was able to take advantage of his opponents based on them defogging or otherwise setting up their own rocks. And I know that in terms of the meta, in terms of draft format, rocks are super important. But in this situation, based on what I'm watching with Jolt, I'm kind of able to, if I forego rocks and bring them on, that's not dead weight, because Gliscor is good in terms of being able to click Earthquake. So yes, it can kind of check Magearna because he'll be able to outspeed it, assuming he's not Shift Gear with Ice Beam, right? But besides that, Earthquake is setup bait for things like Groudon. It's setup bait for things like Tail Globe Manaphy. It's setup bait for things, Arrow can come in if I don't have Ice Fang. But even if it's bulky, Ice Fang's not really going to do much. If I don't have coverage for Scolipede besides Earthquake, it's just going to be able to set up on me Swords Dance and shit. So my concern is that while it's a defensive check, it doesn't check Ice Fang from a max attack Arrow. Definitely doesn't check a +2 Water Aqua Tail or even Water EMZ from the Scolipede, so I just kind of forewent it, and I think my team is better for it because, yeah, it's good with rocks, but I'm not bringing them on just for rocks so that I can die and be a liability for me in the early or the overall game. Alright, Araquanid is my Spadef wall. It's going to be pretty much max HP, max Spadef, Adamant. Didn't really optimize the EVs here, don't care. just I kind of made it so that I was able to do up to like 44% to a Magirna, a like max HP, max special attack Magirna with liquidation. Leech Life is there just for coverage against Mew, and it's able to hit the Breloom, assuming that Jolt brings it, but that mon is never going to be brought by Jolt. Come on. And then I have Toxic and Protect for things like Mew and Manaphy. So that's kind of the Araquanid. I almost was going to put Mirror Coat on here, but I haven't had the greatest luck with running Mirror Coat this season, so I didn't even bother. But Leftovers, Protect, able to kind of like Toxic Stall and Protect, get my Leftovers back, things like that. Scout out for Z-Move, Scout out for Scarfer, see what's going on there. Liquidation is just good solid damage to a lot of his team. I mean, Groudon is still going to take like a third with Liquidation in the Sun. So that's kind of the idea there. And then finally we have Scizor, and this is what actually replaced Gliscor. Now, I was talking to the helpers, Aster and Aaron, and the thing is, it's like, Scizor, they didn't think was great, and I could see where they're coming from, that it didn't have a good matchup, but the way that I use Scizor and how comfortable I am with it, and how I know I could utilize Scizor in terms of being both defensive and offensive, I was kind of able here to bring it, have a second Defogger, have something that could take on and check Scolipede and Mega Arrow, and be able to threaten them out with Bullet Punch, because that's enough attack to be able to 2-KO both of them. Actually, I'm almost able to OHKO Mega Arrow, but unless I'm like almost max attack investment, which kind of foregoes the bulk, which I really want the bulk more, I'm able to just scare things out with like Bullet Punch. So he would have to use things like Mew, things like Manaphy, Groudon, Goodra, and Incineroar to be able to check Scizor. But the thing is, it's like, I'd rather have the opportunity to roost or defog and then even pivot out on one of those switches, or click Bullet Punch to be able to get off some pretty solid chunk damage, or if not, revenge something, because obviously Scizor's going to go faster than any of his fast mons. No speed, don't need it. HP and defense with Akaberry, because I'm able to take flamethrowers, HP fires, fire fangs, things like that. I mean, overheat in the sun is going to fuck me, so I didn't bother with that. But the idea with Scizor here is just to be able to threaten him out, get defogs off in tandem with Coco, and take it from there. So that is the team. A little bit of a lengthier explanation, but I'm actually very excited for this match. I think the teams match up well. We see that he ends up bringing Groudon, Manaphy, Magirna, Mew, Scolipede, and Mega Arrow. So he foregoes bringing Goodra, Incineroar, little Ninetales, Breloom. He's never going to bring that. And then Meloetta. I mean, pretty standard, kind of what I expected. I'm actually going to lead off with my Tapu Koko. I don't need to worry about rocks, which has been kind of not the case for the past few weeks, but he ends up leading off with his Groudon as I lead up to Tapu Koko. I'm going to click U-turn because, I mean, I sort of expected him to lead off with something that wasn't Groudon, but if he's just going to try and get rocks up immediately, that's going to be his go-to right here. We both get the Outer Terrains and Suns up, so I go for U-turn, and I'm going to see here that based on the damage, he is defense and HP invested. I'm not sure exactly how bulky he is. He could have some attack investment based on, because it's a Groudon and all that shit, but I click U-turn, and because it's Naughty Nature, it's just going to do a hell of a lot of damage. Now, I bring in Latios because if he had gone for Precipice Blades, obviously I'm immune to that. If he goes for Stone Edge, I'm going to not take that much damage, and I didn't really want to go into anything else. And I figured Latios is a good thing to early scout to see what kind of coverage moves he has. If he has Toxic, we see he shows Stone Edge and he shows Stealth Rock. So the Stone Edge is going to do a serious amount of damage, so I think that's no attack investment based on what I was looking at. And I'm going to go, he's going to hard swap into Magirna, thinking I'm going to go for Dragon Move. But I ended up going for that Headbutt because I'm smarter than that. I could have clicked Earthquake there. I almost thought about Earthquake there. But the thing is, it's based on the investment that he had on this Magirna, which is max HP and almost max defense or whatever it was, he's going to be able to chew that. So he's going to make the double into Arrow, which, come on, Jolt, I'm better than this. I wasn't clicking Ground Z there. I'm clicking, I clicked Earthquake just to be, just to cover my bases, to not let him, go for a, what's it called? To be immune to my ground move. And, I mean, I didn't get any damage off anyway, but I definitely didn't want to blow the Ground Z there in case I was able to actually flinch right here with the Zen Headbutt. We see he doesn't even do 50%, but he doesn't get flinched. If he did, that would suck for Jolt, but he goes for Ice Fangs and knock me out. So we see that his Arrow has Ice Fang. It is max attack based on the damage that he was able to do and the way that he was able to knock me out there with Ice Fang. So, knowing that, I'm going to go out in a Scizor because I know that I can defog away these stupid fucking rocks, and I'm going to threaten him out because at the range he's at, he will die to a BP. And I have an Akaberry, so if he has Fire Fang, I'm going to be able to live that. So I am going to defog as he goes out into Magirna. And this, I'm not passive, or I'm not playing passively, I'd say, to let rocks dictate how I make my moves, but I'm playing it in a way that's going to threaten him out, but it's also going to ensure that I stay in a relatively safe position offensively, but also aggressively against his team overall. I'm going to go into Araquanid, which was not the smartest idea here, but I didn't have a ground type, so Volt Switch was pretty much free. But I wasn't going to stay in with Scizor because I need it for Scolipede and for Mega Arrow. He's going to Volt Switch out, and I believe it took him a while to figure out what he was going to swap into here. But he ends up going out into his Groudon. Now the sun's going to go back up, and I'm thinking to myself, I saw Stone Edge. He could set his rocks back up. So what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to click Toxic. I'm going to see if I can kind of wear this thing down slowly. I could have clicked Liquidation, but I was only doing about 30 to 35%, I'd say. And I really didn't want to bother with any of that. So he ends up going for Stone Edge. He does crit me, which I was looking at the rolls and stuff. Based on the HP that I was at, I think it was I had the capability of living, but the crit kind of negates that. It didn't really matter. I mean, Araquanid is going to be almost dead anyway, so it didn't really fucking matter. I could click Protect there, but in case he was like a set of variant, because I don't know his other two moves, I didn't really want to bother with any of that. I'm going to go into Conkeldurr as he's going to click Precipice Blades. It's going to do a lot of damage, but again, nothing on my team wants to take a Precipice Blades. Scizor especially, Coco would die, Ho-Oh. I'm not going to be that aggressive until I saw that he didn't have a reason to click Stone Edge. But I'm going to click Knockoff, and hold on. I click Knockoff to get rid of his item. We see he's eating Papa Berry, so I know he's not a setup variant. He's probably not going to have Rock Polish, or Swords Dance, which I was fearing in the build and kind of the preparation stage. So we see Stone Edge, Stealth Rock, and Precipice Blades. And I figured there he wasn't going to click Stone Edge. If he did, it's a fucking Lord play, but he doesn't. I mean, I thought Precipice Blades was more of a better play there, or even clicking Toxic, or if he had Fire Move, both of which Ho-Oh would be fine with taking. But he's going to click Stealth Rock as I switch out hard into Ho-Oh. Now, I did this aggressively because I figure since he put the sun up for me, and since I am adamant with Choice Band, I know that I can click Sacred Fire and almost everything on his team will be two-shotted. He does go into Manaphy, which I knew for pretty much even the building stage that Sacred Fire would be a 2 KO to a defensive Manaphy, like max HP, max defense. This shows here that he has to be max defense with a little bit of HP investment, but we see that we get the burn because that's how Sacred Fire works, and he ends up showing here that he outspeeds me, so he's over base 91 in terms of investment with his speed, and we also see here that he goes for Surf. It doesn't do over half, so we know he has very little special attack investment. That's almost no special attack investment, and I'm able to go for a second Sacred Fire. Unfortunately, I crit him. As a matter of fact, if I didn't crit him there, what I would have done is I would have gone out and tapped Coco, or and I probably would have taken the Surf, or I would have went out into Conk, and I would have taken that Surf because I know I was able to take 2 Surfs at the range that I was at, and I would have been able to live. So I go out into my Scizor as he brings out a Scolipede. I expected something like Rock Slide, I expected something like Aqua Tail, both of which are very solid coverage moves against my overall team. And I'm able to go out into Scizor, and right here I'm just going to roost up. Rocks are not up at this very moment, but I want to keep Scizor healthy. Like I said, this is my very solid check to both Mega Arrow and Scolipede. And we see he brings in Mew. Now, I can click U-turn here, or I can click Roost to get rid of, Defog to get rid of these stupid rocks, which is kind of the name of the game. The Aqua Berry does, allow me to bypass this Flamethrower from knocking me out, and I'm able to get rid of the rocks again. So we see his Mew has pretty much just Flamethrower. I don't know his other moves yet. I mean, I think if he was some sort of set of variant, he would have done that already, but doubtful. So I'm gonna hard swap out. I'm weakened, but I'm not dead, so I can roost up later on, especially against the Scolipede. Now that I know that a Life Orb, Aqua Tail is not even 4 KOing me. It's 3 hit KOing me, but that's still pretty solid damage. And like I said in the team preview, the way that I'm able to check the Scolipede with Scizor, which is better than I would be able to do with Gliscor against Scolipede and Mega Arrow. So I'm going to swap out into my Coco as he goes for Flamethrower. Does a decent chunk, about a third. So I'm going to click U-turn, and I'm going to go right out into Ho-Oh. I didn't, again, if he had a rock move like Rock Slide, or if he had a Stone Edge, clicking it here would have been a fucking Lord play. But I'm trying to be as aggressive as possible with as little downside as possible. Obviously, Flamethrower is resisted. He does click Toxic, and I see here, like we saw with Manaphy, it does outspeed. But I know that Ho-Oh is in. I can take pretty much whatever. I mean, Thunderbolt in the Electric is going to do very solid. I mean, it might even knock me out based on his special attack investment, based on his investment that he took, or based on how he's using Mew. It could be a little bit more defensive. I'm going to click Brave Bird over Sacred Fire, and I'm able to knock him out because just the roll was way in my favor, and he receives faster again. So we see that he brings a lot of speed and a lot of bulk into Mew and Manaphy to be able to outpace the Ho-Oh. I click Brave Bird, I knock him out. That's now 2 KOs for Ho-Oh, which is more than Envy ever fucking got. And I'm going to swap out, and I'm going to go in my Conkeldurr. Now, he can click something like Rock Slide, or even Stone Edge, because we saw Stone Edge already. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click my my Drain Punch. I know that based on the range that I'm at in terms of my HP, I can live an Earthquake from Max Attack, Jolly, Mega Aerodactyl. Even Adamant, actually not Adamant Aerodactyl. I thought about that after I clicked Drain Punch. But I clicked Drain Punch, and we see to the Magearna, it does a decent amount of damage. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stay in. I have no reason really to switch. I don't want anything to take a Floor Cannon. I don't want anything to take, I don't want him to be able to set up. He does miss his first Floor Cannon, which kind of sucks. The accuracy of a Draco Meteor, even though that should be hitting all the time too. I click Fire Punch, does about the same amount of damage. Actually, if I clicked Drain Punch here, what would be kind of cool is that I'd actually be out of range of a Floor Cannon, or just about in a range that would be a roll with Floor Cannon. He's going to be able to knock me out. Actually, as a matter of fact, I should have been dead already. So that point is really moot. I just got a little bit more damage off on the Magearna, which puts him at -1 special attack after the Soul Heart boost. But this allows me to go back into my Ho-Oh, and I can pretty much just click any move that I want. His Mew is down, his Manaphy is down, and I think besides that, he now has to start picking things to die. I think he wants to save things like Mega Arrow, things like Scolipede, and he doesn't want to let Magearna die because he can win with this in the late game. Like those 3 things that he can win with. So he does end up going out into Mega Arrow. He has to bank that I don't get the burn here, but whether he went into Groudon, that would die. If he went out into the Scolipede, that would die. If he stayed with Magearna, that would die. So we see how much of a threat this Ho-Oh is being to him, whereas I think a lot of people underestimated how good this could be. I mean, just not even talking about the sun, just, Adamant Band is just blowing through things. That's really cool, honestly. And I'm having more fun already using Ho-Oh than I did when I was using Mega Lucario. The team felt very clunky with Mega Lucario versus Ho-Oh. It feels more organic, more offensive. I could press into my opponents the way I was able to last season, or even in my ICBA teams. So I go out in the Scissor. As he misses a Stone Edge, he is burnt. I didn't give a shit because I was living that Stone Edge anyway. If I could take that Life Orb Adamant Aqua Tail from the Scolipede, I could definitely take a Stone Edge from a burnt Mega Aerodactyl. So I am going to click Bullet Punch to see how much damage this is going to do. I know he's probably going to Volt Switch. He could have clicked Floor Cannon here, but I don't know, 10, 15, 20%, which means that he's pretty much max defense and max HP, which, again, with all these fucking defensive mons, Jolt, how could you, Jolt? How could you just not let me just blow through you with all my physically attacking mons? So he goes out here into his Groudon. And I have a choice to make here. I'm not going to let this stay in, because obviously I need this for Scolipede Mega Arrow. I am going to go hard out on my Koko. Now, if he clicks something like Stone Edge, Precipice Blades, I was pretty much sacking off the Koko here to get me freely into the Ho-Oh, because Sun would be up, I'd be able to click Sacred Fire and blow through pretty much everything else that was on his team. But he clicks Stone Edge. Or, I'm sorry, not Stone Edge, Stealth Rock. And this is actually where that Defog comes in pretty clutch. I knew, and I banked on the fact that he was going to knock me out with Precipice Blades or Earthquake. Well, Precipice Blades. And I'm going to click Defog, and it ends up he clicks Precipice Blade. It's going to knock me out. But this ensures that rocks are gone for the rest of the game, because we see that Groudon now is too weak to be able to tank another Sacred Fire, especially in the sun. So I'm going to go back into Ho-Oh. I'm keeping it healthy. It's back up with the Regenerator, so thank God. And I'm able to click the Sacred Fire again. And this is going to be able to knock out the Groudon. So rocks are gone, and I'm in a pretty solid position. It's 2-3 right now. He has Magearna, Scolipede, Mega Arrow. I have Ho-Oh and Scissor. So Scissor, like I said, is still in a decent range to be able to check, especially the Mega Arrow, and a little bit the Scolipede, based on whatever he's going to go for. So I end up hard swapping out after I knock out the Groudon into my Scissor. I know I can take 2 Aqua Tails based on his HP range, and if he gets down to about 50%, I can then knock him out with Bullet Punch if he is reckless enough to do that. He clicks Aqua Tail, as I was pretty much forced into a 50-50 here. If I went for Bullet Punch there, he would be down to roughly 35%, 30-35% after the Aqua Tail and the Aqua Tail hit and the Life Orb damage. That would mean that I can then go for a second one, which would force him to switch. Now, I don't end up clicking Bullet Punch. I don't click Roost. I actually end up clicking U-Turn. Now, the reason why I clicked U-Turn there was because I figured, based on his Magearna HP, I thought he would hard swap out into Magearna. If he had like Pain Split with the leftovers, he can go for that. But I figured I could pivot out, get back into Ho-Oh, and be able to, start clicking Sacred Fire again. Maybe Bullet Punch there was probably the better play, but based on how he hadn't showed a rock move yet, I figure I can just click Sacred Fire here. I can knock him out. And he does click Protect. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe just kind of stall to see how many Sacred Fires I had left in terms of PP. I think I was down to like 4, maybe 3 at this point, but no pressure him on, so it really didn't matter. I'm going to click Sacred Fire, as I know he's going to outpace me. If he's Jolly, he does not knock me out here, even with the Life Orb. But unfortunately, to my dismay, he is adamant, and he's able to knock me out. So unfortunately, I am going to lose here, but I think that probably the only thing I did wrong was clicking U-Turn against this thing. I mean, Bullet Punch would have knocked this out, and then that pretty much would have meant that Mega Arrow came in, which I could have gone out into my Ho-Oh hard. And I don't think I would have won. I'm just gonna say that straight out. I don't think that I had the capability of winning. The crit Aqua Tail kind of sucked, just because I knew I could take 2 of them at the range that I was at. Since I was at 50%, I knew I could take 2, like we saw earlier in the game. He had Earthquake and I believe the Mega Horn, so I resisted those with the Protect. So unfortunately, I lose 2-0 after he KOs himself with the Life Orb damage. So Magearna and Mega Arrow end up staying alive, and unfortunately, we end up taking our L. This will eliminate us from the playoff contention, but I will say, and I am 100% serious about this, that I am genuinely more excited to use this team now that I got fucking rid of Mega Lucario. Talk about it how you will. The way that I'm able to play now is so much easier, so much more like free, and so much more aggressive without downside now that I have Ho-Oh. And I said that in the match, but I believe it wholeheartedly, and I think it shows here. I was able to take someone who arguably has one of the best rosters in terms of this season of the GBA, and I was able to pretty much contend to the point where I was able to take him almost to a loss, which is pretty damn impressive. So GG to Jolt. It was probably one of the best matches I've had the past like 2 seasons of the GBA, and thank you, and I appreciate a good match. And I hope that you guys do too. I hope you guys enjoyed this match. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you guys agree with how I used Ho-Oh, that it was better or more effective than just beating on Deathly like I did with Mega Lucario. So I'm actually ahead of schedule. I played Danza already because he had to play a little bit early because he was moving out from college, I believe. And then we have one more match. So that'll be against Cybertron. I'm eliminated from playoffs. I'm still going to try as hard as I possibly can. And we will see how I can finish out the season. Actually, as a matter of fact, if I beat Danza next week, I actually ruin his playoff chances. And based on how things go with wins and losses, I can even end up eliminating Cybertron from playoffs as well. So we'll see how this goes. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave your comments, likes, whatever. And I will see you guys next week against Danza. Bye.